Hi, I'm Dhareza Maramis.
And I'm Becka Noel, and we are instructors at the 2018 USITT Costume Symposium in Utah at the Utah Shakespeare Festival.
And we are both professional cosplayers, but today we are essentially instructors on how to teach people how to work with Worbla.
Worbla and EVA foam.
So back in the day, and still am, I am an avid con goer. I love going to Comic-Cons, and I've been for years trying to drag Becka with me. And then about 8 years ago, Becka finally decides to come, and instead of being enamored by all of the different guests and panels and everything that you can see, she loved watching all the cosplayers walking around.
Yeah. I've loved costumes all of my life, and I have two older brothers, so I, of course, was into playing video games. And I have an art background. I went to Pratt Institute, but I never got my feet wet in actual costume design until Dari brought me to New York Comic Con, and I saw all of the beautiful costumes, and I wanted to be part of that. So I went home and I made my first costume out of duct tape because I didn't know how to sew, and that was kind of it for me. And here we are 8 years later.
And then a year after that, so 7 years ago, that's when I first started cosplaying.
I started using Worbla about 7 years ago when it became available in this country. And it was a material I'd heard a lot about, but it was only available in Europe. So I couldn't wait to get my hands on it. And as soon as I got it, I was terrified to use it because there weren't many tutorials out there because people just didn't have it. And
ironically, the very first thing that we used Worbla with was my first costume.
Yes, right, because I made Dare's costume was my first ever armor build, and I ordered the Worbla to use for his costume, and that's how I got bit by the Worbla bug. I would say that Worbla is probably more prevalent, I hope I'm right in saying that, in the cosplay community than theater, because I think that Worbla is just now in the last couple of years starting to branch out into the various different entertainment industries, including theater. It's a material it's still super new. It's only 7 years old in the United States, and not a lot of people have heard of it. I still have people every day coming into my workshops who've never heard of Worbla and are really excited to use it. So I think it's going to start getting out there more, but it's still relatively unknown.
Yeah, we're fairly certain that Worbla was definitely embraced by the cosplayers first, and then since then it's been seeping its way into other industries, whether it's from theater all the way to even like medicinal uses, not for medicine, but for like construction
Making
type
the
of thing.
molds
Yeah, exactly.
And helping with casting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite Worbla piece ever was actually the first time I ever made anything with Worbla. 6.5 or 7 years ago, I made a Deathstroke cosplay. Fully armored, is based off of the Arkham Asylum games. I loved it because of how not only did it end up looking exactly like Deathstroke, but it also felt like it, because Worbla inherently is it's thick, it's sturdy, so it does have a real sense of armor to it instead of foam, which is always flexible.
Forgiving.
It's
So
very flexible. Yeah,
if you make a mistake, you can easily cover it up.
Exactly. Unfortunately, because it was my first time, I ended up using way more than I needed. I think I ended up using like 3 jumbo rolls on like a very small piece.
It was really heavy.
It was very heavy. So it was legit armor by the end.
Yeah, I'm sure it could take a bullet or a zombie bite.
Yeah, definitely.
My favorite project so far with Worbla is the first thing I ever made, or the second thing I ever made with Worbla, which for me was my first armor costume, which is a grown-up version of a warrior Red Riding Hood. And it's this warrior version. She has all of this armor. And she has this giant wolf head on her shoulder that I carved out of insulation foam and then covered with Worbla and used it to kind of sculpt the wolf head. And it just has a lot of pieces on it that are awesome. And because it was my first project and I was learning how to make all these things for myself, I had to figure different things out. So has a special place in my heart.
Honestly, I can't speak for Becca, but my favorite part about being an instructor here is the fact that almost all of in fact, all of our students are trained professionals in theatrical prop making and costuming, and we've been able to learn stuff from them, and vice versa. I mean, that's part of the best part about the whole creative process, in that it's not just one way. It has been a two-way relationship the entire time.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see people that have a really creative background and that have been in a creative field for a long time use a material that they've never used before and be able to take it and just like run away with it, which is really awesome. Everybody started off with the same breastplate pattern, and everybody's patterns are completely different. So it's been really cool to see, and just like, you know, talk with everybody and hear their backgrounds and learn from them and see how excited they are and how much fun they're having using Worbla. It's really rewarding.